You don't even have basic empathy, do you? Daniel slammed his glass down, barely holding back his anger. She just wanted a child, and you managed to ruin everything for her. He continued, voice sharp. The entire ballroom fell silent instantly, and every eye turned toward me without a single question. They weren't looking for answers, they were already judging, already deciding what I was in this moment. Some people had already lifted their phones, quietly recording, as if they knew something worth watching was unfolding. I was still wearing my wedding dress, champagne untouched, and somehow the marriage was already over. My name is Emily Carter, a newly licensed attorney in New York, trained to argue and defend. But at that moment, I couldn't even defend myself, not in front of them, not in front of him. The professor sat in her wheelchair, hands trembling slightly, yet her eyes never left me once. It felt like if I refused, I would automatically become the wrong one in everyone's eyes. It's just one decision, Daniel said again, as if simplifying something that wasn't simple at all. We're helping her fulfill her final wish, something meaningful, something that actually matters in the end. You can choose to support this, or you can choose to destroy everything we've built together. The moment those words landed, the entire tone shifted from persuasion into something far more coercive. It wasn't a request anymore. It was pressure, forcing me into a side I never agreed to join. Chloe stood beside him silently, leaning slightly into him, her fingers hooked around his sleeve possessively. She didn't speak, but her body language said everything, like she already belonged in that position. She looked at me calmly, then said, "Emily, we'll take care of everything from here. Take care of it." I repeated, letting out a small laugh that didn't reach my eyes. "You mean taking care of me too? Making sure I'm no longer part of the equation?" A few people chuckled under their breath, as if this was just tension, not something breaking apart. Daniel frowned, clearly irritated. "Don't talk like that. You're making this harder than it needs to be." I stared directly at him. "Then tell me how I'm supposed to talk. What version works for you?" The air froze completely. He had no answer, not one word to offer in return. So I turned and walked away, leaving behind not concern, not apologies, just quiet conversations rising behind me. The next day, headlines came out, framing everything in a way I couldn't control anymore. "Attorney refuses to help terminal mentor fulfill final wish." The title read, clean and brutal. The comments were overwhelming, completely one-sided, painting me as cold, selfish, and unworthy of my profession. Some said I lacked humanity. Others said I should never have been allowed to practice law at all. My firm responded quickly, too quickly, placing me on immediate suspension without any real discussion. My supervisor didn't elaborate. "Wait until this dies down," was all he said before ending it. I nodded because arguing wouldn't change anything, not when public opinion had already decided everything. That afternoon, I went to the hospital, walking through long, sterile hallways under harsh white lighting. I stopped at a corner just in time to see Daniel pressing Chloe against the wall. He kissed her without hesitation, not like something new, not like something impulsive or accidental. It looked practiced, familiar, like something that had been happening long before I ever realized. I stood there, completely still, watching until they finally pulled apart and adjusted themselves casually. Only then did it settle in fully. This wasn't just betrayal. This was replacement, deliberate and planned. On the third day, Chloe posted a video, smiling brightly outside the hospital entrance for everyone watching. "Thank you all. We did it," she said sweetly, as if everything had gone exactly as planned. Daniel replied underneath, "I'm here. Always." The kind of message meant to look loyal and devoted. I checked the timestamp, then cross-referenced it with hospital records I still had access to. The dates didn't match. Something was off, something carefully hidden beneath everything they presented publicly. So I started digging deeper, pulling parking logs, billing records, appointment schedules from previous months. 3 full months, every single week. The same time slot. The same consistent pattern repeating itself. This wasn't recent. It started long before the wedding, long before any of this became visible. By the 5th day, things escalated further, and people started showing up outside my office building. Some shouted, some recorded, some demanded statements as if I owed them explanations for my life. Say something, they kept insisting, cameras pointed directly at my face, waiting for a reaction. I said one sentence. She's not actually a patient. That was all I gave them. They laughed immediately, dismissing it like an excuse, like I was trying to save myself. So I stopped speaking entirely, letting silence replace anything they could twist or misinterpret. On the 6th day, the professor gave an interview, and her words sealed everything against me publicly. She disappointed me, she said simply, and that single sentence carried more weight than anything else. In that moment, I became the villain in every narrative, the one who denied compassion when it mattered. On the 7th day, I returned home, opening the door to find all 3 of them already inside. They looked comfortable, settled, like they had been living there long before I even arrived back. Daniel looked at me and said calmly, "We need to make arrangements moving forward from here. You'll resign, and you'll stay to help take care of them. That's the most reasonable option." He said it like it was obvious, like there was no alternative worth considering or even discussing. I looked at him carefully. "Are you actually serious right now? Or is this some kind of test?" He frowned. "This isn't about emotions. It's about making the right choice for everyone involved." The professor added softly, "Emily, this is the right thing to do under the circumstances." Chloe placed a hand on her stomach, smiling faintly. "We're going to become a real family." I laughed quietly. "Not mine," I said, and the room went completely silent after that. That night, I organized everything, building a timeline piece by piece from the evidence I gathered. Hospital records, surveillance footage, parking data, financial transactions, and one critical inconsistency. Chloe's pregnancy timeline began earlier than the supposed fertility procedure they publicly claimed. By the 10th day, I filed everything formally, submitting documents directly to the court system. On the 12th day, I returned home again, and they were still there, waiting for me to yield. The doorbell rang, and 2 court officials stood outside, holding official documents for Daniel to sign. "What is this?" he asked impatiently, clearly not expecting anything that would disrupt his control. "Divorce papers and notice of criminal investigation," one of them replied without emotion or hesitation. The entire room froze instantly. Chloe's face drained of color, and the professor's hands shook harder. Daniel turned toward me, disbelief finally breaking through. "Have you completely lost your mind?" I walked forward calmly and placed the documents on the table. "You can read everything together." He opened the first page, and the evidence unfolded in front of him without any room to deny. Timelines, screenshots, financial trails, and a recorded conversation between him and Chloe. "Get her pregnant first, then push her out," his own voice said clearly in the recording. Everything collapsed in that moment. The professor stood abruptly, furious, and shaking with realization. "You lied to me," she demanded, her voice breaking under the weight of what she just heard. Chloe stepped back, panicking. "It's not like that. It's not what it sounds like at all." I looked at her. "You're 3 months pregnant, and you claimed the procedure just succeeded." She couldn't respond, not with anything that would hold up against facts already laid out. Daniel's voice trembled. "Emily, we can talk about this. We can fix this somehow." I shook my head. "Not anymore. That option ended the moment you made your plan." He signed the documents with a shaking hand, his signature uneven, no longer controlled or confident. 1 month later, the trial was held publicly, with a full audience and live coverage streaming. The judge asked a single question. Do you admit to the charges presented before this court? Daniel lowered his head. I admit, he said quietly, and that was the end of it. The ruling came quickly. Divorce finalized, assets awarded to me, and a 2-year sentence issued. Public opinion reversed just as quickly, with comments disappearing as people tried to erase themselves. But I didn't look back at any of it. I didn't need their validation anymore. Outside the courthouse, Daniel looked at me one last time before being taken away. If I had done things differently, he started, but he couldn't finish the thought. I met his gaze. Then you wouldn't be you, I said, and turned away without hesitation. The wind was cold outside, sharp against my skin, but for the first time, it felt clean.